In the bustling city of Lagos State, there lived a young guy called John, who dreamt of one day being wealthy and successful. Every morning, as he made his way to his lowly work as a schoolteacher, he passed the stately estate of Mr. Abel, a man recognized throughout the area for his vast fortune. Mr. Abel drove the newest automobiles, had elaborate parties, and lived a life of luxury that John couldn't help but admire. From the outside, Mr. Abel looked to have it all. His mansion was the biggest in the area, and people murmured about his various enterprises and worldwide ties. To John, Mr. Abel was a symbol of success, the type of life he craved for. Every time John struggled with paying bills or caring for his younger siblings, he hoped he could have just a portion of Mr. Abel's fortune. "I wish I could be as rich as Mr. Abel," John frequently thought to himself. "Life would be so much easier, and I could take care of my family without worries." One day, John was sitting outside his little home, considering his future, when he noticed Mr. Abel's beautiful black automobile came up to him. To his amazement, the driver came out and gave him a letter. Have you subscribed to our channel yet? Please try and encourage us and watch more inspiring stories like this by subscribing to our channel. Click the subscribe button now. God bless you as you do so. Thanks. The driver delivered a message to John. "The boss wants to see you," the driver remarked before speeding off. John's heart raced. What might Mr. Abel want with him? He hurriedly dressed himself and made his way to the estate, where he was received by Mr. Abel personally. "John, how are you?" Mr. Abel remarked with a grin. "I've heard about you, a hardworking young man with big dreams." "I like that." He nodded, feeling both gratified and scared. Mr. Abel was renowned for his kindness, and John secretly thought this would be the chance he had been waiting for. "I want to help you, John," Mr. Abel added. "I see potential in you. I can give you a job at one of my companies. The income is substantial, and with time, you may become extremely rich. What do you say?" John's eyes brightened up. This was all he had ever dreamed. Without thinking twice, he accepted the offer. At first, everything appeared ideal. He was offered high-paying employment, and his life started to change. He moved into a better apartment, acquired new clothing, and was able to send more money home to his family. His buddies envied him, and he felt like his goals were finally coming true. But shortly, John started to notice unusual things regarding Mr. Abel's firm. Transactions were always covert, and John was regularly ordered to transport parcels without being informed what they contained. Whenever he questioned inquiries, he was greeted with ambiguous replies or advised not to worry about it. One evening, while attending one of Mr. Abel's opulent parties, John overheard a discussion between Mr. Abel and three shady-looking individuals. They were talking about agreements that entailed illicit activities like drug trafficking, money laundering, and other things John couldn't believe he was hearing. His gut clenched as he understood the truth. Mr. Abel's fortune was founded on illicit money. John felt ill to his core. He had adored Mr. Abel for his money, never wondering how he had gotten it. Now he understood why everything was so clandestine, why Mr. Abel lived in perpetual luxury while so many others suffered. The prosperity he had admired was poison, obtained through the misery of others. John made up his mind that night. He couldn't be part of this. No amount of money was worth compromising his integrity. The following morning, he went to Mr. Abel and handed him his resignation. "I can't do this anymore," he remarked, his voice firm. "I know what's going on, and I won't be a part of it." Mr. Abel grinned, reclining back in his chair. "You think you can walk away from this so easily? Once you're in, you're in. There's no going back." But John was firm. He walked out of Mr. Abel's house, leaving behind the money, the comfort, and the promises of a great life. It wasn't easy. He had to start again, going back to his teaching career, but this time with a clearer head and a deeper sense of purpose. Mr. Abel was so disappointed in this shocking move of John. His mind was not at rest because he was afraid that John might leak out the secret, so he quickly called hired assassins that do work for him to eliminate John. On this fateful day, John was invited to a night vigil by a preacher in their local parish. John was a guy who doesn't like to visit church. His visit to church is once in a blue moon. The preacher tried to convince him to come, but he was completely reluctant. On second thought, John quickly remembered the rent he was owing his landlord. He knew that landlord would disturb him that day. He later followed the preacher to vigil. The same night, the hired assassins visited his house, but he was not found. Instead, they met the landlord and killed him, thinking it was John they killed. The following morning, John was surprised to see the corpse of his landlord. He didn't know how it happened. Some eyewitnesses at the environment were murmuring, and they explained that they had a gunshot overnight. John was speechless. He couldn't imagine what would have happened if he refused to go to the night vigil. The police later arrived, and they recorded everything at the scene to further their investigation. John went back to the church the following week to give testimony about what God has done in his life. In fact, the police nearly accused him of murder. As time passed, John's reputation for honesty and hard work expanded. He was ultimately given a job at a prestigious organization, where his honesty was recognized. He may not have had the money of Mr. Abel, but he had something much more precious: peace of mind, a clean conscience, and a feeling of pride in the job he accomplished. Years later, John watched from afar as Mr. Abel's enterprise fell. The law ultimately caught up with him, and his riches, once revered by many, evaporated as suddenly as they had come. Mr. Abel was caught and convicted of multiple crimes, including a murder case, leaving behind a legacy of greed, corruption, and ruin. John, on the other hand, created a humble but honest existence. He realized that genuine riches weren't about how much money you had, but about living with integrity, doing something you can be proud of, and appreciating the things that matter: family, love, and honesty. Looking back, John frequently thought to himself, if I had known his source of wealth was dirty, I wouldn't have wished for his riches. No matter what you're doing now, don't give up. Surely there will be a payday someday.